The 9.1 update brings us a lot of buffs on tier 10, and obviously as a YouTuber, we gotta talk about it. Bonjour everyone, Pantoufleee here today for a new video in which we're gonna take a look at the T123 and we're gonna ask the mighty question, is the tank still worth it, knowing that it received at the same time during the 9.1 update a buff and a nerf. So what are the buffs? Because there are multiple. First, on the mobility, the tank received a better traverse speed from 24 degrees per second to 27. So an addition of 3 degrees per second. Even if it doesn't mean a lot for most players, it's definitely a lot considering that we're talking about one of the least mobile tank at tier 10, the T123. On top of that, the damage of your standard shell was increased from 640 to 680. So for the buffs, you have a better alpha damage and a better traverse speed. But of course, it comes to three downsides that are maybe a little bit too much for some. First, the gun dispersion was increased, which means that your accuracy is bad. Your reload time was increased as well in order for you to have the exact same DPM between the 640 alpha damage gun and the 681. And the average penetration was reduced by 10 millimeters from 295 to 285. So in definitive, you get yourself a tank that received a penetration nerf, also an accuracy nerf, for something that gets a better alpha damage and a better mobility. So how does it represent in battle? This is what we're going to talk about today. So before we talk directly about the replay, I need to give some context about the T123. I should tell you two things. The T123 is known for its bad mobility and for its impressive armor. Now it's also going to be known for its impressive alpha damage because it's sitting at 680. When I tell you great armor and bad mobility, except if you use the speed boost that I'm currently using, what does it tell you? What do you think the playstyle is going to be? Do you really think that you're here to sit at the back of the corner of the map waiting for the opponents in a bush camping? No, this is not what the T123 was created for. Even if you're slow, your main goal is to be at first line, to be able to get a couple of bounces straight into the upper part of the hull, of your hull, in order to deal damage. And this is exactly what we are about to do. Yes, I take some time to get into the battle. I get it, the Batchat could have snapped 1 or 2 shells on me, but when I'm in place, and you're gonna see it against the WT Alpha Panzer IV, the 704, and basically the whole enemy team, I'm here. I'm able to stand my ground. The T123, if you do not show the lower part of the hull, is one of the few tanks with which you actually have the possibility of holding the ground against the whole enemy team. So why nerfs and buffs on the T123? Here is my guess. The 9.1 update was here just to specialize the tank, and I will talk about that in a future video. Because Wargaming didn't out of their pocket, they didn't decide to all of a sudden get rid of most of the playstyle at tier 10 and change pretty much everything. No. What they wanted to do is specialize the tank. And it shows with the T110 E3 buff or nerf, call it whatever you want. Why? Because back in the 9.0 update, the T123 could stand pretty much every single role without any difficulty. You could just stay in the back and camp, you could play aggressively and win, you could do everything. And what Wargaming did here is, you know what? The T123 is a tank that is supposed to be close combat because of its armor. And we are pissed about people trying to play it from the distance. So what we're going to do is we are going to nerf everything about the tank that allows it to be played from the distance to favorize or to increase the abilities that made it so good at close range. And by doing so, they are giving us a T123 that is better than the original version, only if you play it right. And this is what happened with every single tanks from the 9.1 update. What did you see during this replay? I played aggressively, I was at first line, I took the vast majority of shots, I got 2.3k damage blocked, I did 4.6k damage because I did not camp in the back. If I camped in the back, the outcome would be totally different. I wouldn't have been able to get such damage. And if we take a look at a second replay, we're gonna do approximately the exact same statistics, but because we are playing it aggressively. So now, let's take a real look at the playstyle. What are you supposed to do with it? It's actually kind of simple. You want to push and be in front of your opponents, but do not try to angle even the slightest your hull. If you do this, people will penetrate the first track, and if they do, it's an automatic penetration with damage and you're gonna be stuck. And trust me, a lot of people are trying to do this because they know it's the only weakness that T110E3 has. So please guys, when you're playing with the T110E3, be careful. Just take a look at what I'm doing currently. I'm gonna show you. Where did we place our tank? From the ridge line here, you see that I'm not showing the lower part of the hull. From this position, I'm literally invincible because there is no way my opponents penetrate me. On top of that, I'm using my 10 degrees of gun depression. And this is exactly what you are supposed to do with the T110E3. Use your 10 degrees of gun depression and make sure that nobody can penetrate you. And if you do that, trust me, even if in front of us we had the whole enemy team, we could be able to sustain our ground. And well, you're gonna see that it's gonna help us quite a lot because we are already sitting at 2.2k damage, and it's gonna be increased again and again. So in definitive, the T110E3 is a bunker which you have to place as close as your targets as possible, and if you do that, you should not struggle at all. Just take a look at how easy it is for us since the 680 alpha damage buff. Now the enemies, on top of already being scared of the T110E3, have to deal with the consequences of taking a shot from me, because 680 is quite a lot. Just take a look at this 50 TP, for example. We snapped 2 shells on him, and within the, if we do an addition of the 2 shells, we sneaked nearly 1.4k damage on his ass. And this is upsetting for the enemies. They know that within the span of 14.5 seconds, they can get totally obliterated if they do not try to move. And on top of that, you have the giving up factor, like you see on the Yak Panzer. The guy said, oh, you know what? I can't penetrate T110E3. Fuck that. I'm just gonna leave the game. He's gonna kill me and I don't care. And it's gonna happen quite a lot of time with this tank, trust me. Now, as I mentioned in the previous replay, I told you that the T110E3 is here to sustain one playstyle only, playing aggressively at short range. And here it shows, because I'm totally stuck and incapable of doing anything from that distance. Because I would love to be able to sneak a shot on the STB, it's impossible. I know that there is the T110E3 on the other side camping, and the T54E1 is too far from me to be able to do anything. So in definitive here, I'm kind of stuck, I can't do anything. Why? Because I'm playing the T110E3 the way people played it before the 9.1 update, camping behind the bush. You do not want a T110E3 to do this. And if you want to get the T110E3 with your only goal being to stay behind the bush in your cap or in the traditional camp destroyer spot, tank destroyer spot, just don't buy the T110E3. It's not a tank for you. The T110E3 is a tank you play aggressively to be able to be the leader of your team when it comes to push. If you do not do that, you are going to be more of a burden for your teammates rather than an asset. That being said, we are going to go on the last T110E3 for probably what will be our last shot. And we are gonna try to snap an APCR straight into what was supposed to be a weak spot, aka the cupola. And you see that even with a gold shell, it's impossible to penetrate. We're artificially gonna increase our little armor, killing the T110E3 in the process, nearly sitting at 5k damage, but I think we got 5k damage because of the fire damage we got on the E100. We got the victory, and bang, that's it. First class, and of course, a well-done game. So, if we summarize the essence of that video, you need to understand that the T110E3 nerf is not a nerf. It's just Wargaming's way to make sure that you play this tank correctly and stop freaking camping with it because you're not supposed to do this. And once you understand that and once you play correctly, you will really feel like the nerf and buffs Wargaming gave to the tank was more of a buff than a nerf. So hopefully you enjoyed and share my opinion. If it's not the case, feel free to tell me in the comments, and I'm gonna see you soon for a new video. Bye.